You'll never get a cent of my money, Dad, not one. The door slammed shut. Those words from my daughter Ava cut sharper than any blade. Rain poured down in sheets. The brand new security lights blinding me as if to erase the existence of someone no longer wanted. My battered suitcase burst open on the concrete, its contents spilling out like discarded trash shirts, socks, and the fragments of a life I once cherished. Behind Ava stood Trey, the man she called her partner. Arms crossed, lips curled into a smug smile as though he'd just claimed some grand prize. The brand new house glistened behind them, ribbons still hanging from the door. The sold sign tilted on the lawn as if mocking me. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just stood there in the rain, letting the icy drops crash down on my shoulders. Ava thought tonight she had erased her father from her life. But there was one truth she didn't know. The ticket she was building her happiness on was never really hers to begin with. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The rain pulled around my shoes, turning the gravel into mud. One by one, I picked up my shirts, my socks, even the shaving kit I'd used for 20 years. They slipped from my hands, soaked as if they too were rejecting me. Trey leaned against the doorway, his voice carrying smug satisfaction. You heard her, old man. Get moving. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked up at him, not with rage, not with pleading, just a calm that seemed to unsettle him. My silence was my shield. Ava glanced at me once more, her face unreadable in the flood of the security lights. She'd once looked at me with trust, with a kind of fragile affection. Tonight her eyes were flat hollow as though all history had been scrubbed away. I zipped up what I could fit into the suitcase. The rest socks and an old photograph of me and Ava at a fair when she was 8 stayed where they fell. She didn't even bend to pick them up. Dad, she said, her tone clipped. I told you already you have no right to be here. No right to my house, to my life, to my money. None of it. Her words lodged somewhere behind my ribs, no right. I wanted to tell her about all the rights she'd borrowed from me. Rights paid in sacrifice and hours bent over bank ledgers, when I should have been retired and nights staying up with her boys when she was finding herself. But I didn't, not then. Because giving her that satisfaction to see me broken, shouting in the rain would have been her victory. So I closed the suitcase, my hands trembling. Not from cold, but from the kind of restraint only age teaches you. The walk down the driveway felt longer than it was. Each step echoed like a farewell drumbeat. My old sedan was parked crooked near the curb, its paint-chipped windshield fogged from the storm. I set the suitcase in the trunk and leaned against the car for a moment. My back ached, my heart even more. I thought of calling someone, an old colleague, maybe my sister in Ohio. But what would I say? That my only daughter had cast me out like garbage the minute money came her way, that she'd traded blood for bricks and glass? No, I swallowed the urge. Instead, I turned the key in the ignition. The car coughed awake headlights slicing through the curtain of rain. In the rearview mirror, I caught one last glimpse of Ava's silhouette framed in that glowing doorway, Trey's hand resting possessively on her shoulder. She thought she'd won. I drove off without a word. The highway was slick wipers dragging back and forth with an almost mocking rhythm. I gripped the wheel tighter than necessary. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and red, as though the world itself was crying with me. At a red light, I pulled into an empty parking lot. A diner closed hours ago. I killed the engine and sat there listening to the rain hammering the roof like restless fingers. My suitcase lay in the trunk, but I didn't care to open it. What mattered wasn't inside. What mattered was what she thought she'd taken. The ticket. It came back to me in pieces like old film reels clicking into place. That night at the gas station, the clerk handed me the slip, my pen scratches across the back. My name, Walter Green, is etched in shaky ink, a ritual we'd shared for years. Ava and I buying tickets for fun, laughing about what we'd do if luck ever struck. But this one I bought myself. I remembered clearly than yesterday. The numbers weren't hers. The signature wasn't hers. It was mine, and she had no idea. The rain eased slightly, softening into a mist. I rolled down the window, the night air cold against my face. I thought about dignity, how fragile it feels when stripped away, yet how stubborn it becomes when you cling to it. Ava thought she'd erased me, but she didn't understand that fathers, real fathers, don't disappear so easily. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message lit up the screen from Ava. Don't ever come back. If you try to claim anything, I'll make sure everyone knows you're a leech. Consider this your last warning. I stared at the words. For a moment, anger bubbled hot in my chest. But then a kind of calm washed over me. She didn't know. She couldn't know. She was bluffing with stolen cards. I typed back one word. Okay, I set the phone down. My chest rose and fell in a slow, steady rhythm. On the seat beside me lay a worn leather wallet. Inside, folded between old receipts, was a thin slip of paper. Proof of purchase from that gas station. The timestamp, the register number. My receipt. I ran my thumb across it, feeling the ridges of the ink. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start. Patience, Walter, I whispered to myself. Patience. The rain stopped completely by the time I reached my small rented apartment across town. The place smelled faintly of dust and coffee grounds, but it was mine. The peeling wallpaper, the squeaky floorboards they had witnessed me long before Ava's new mansion ever stood. I placed the suitcase in the corner closed, still damp. For a moment I just sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, listening to the silence press against the walls, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it wants an answer, but I gave none. Instead, I reached for the folder in my desk drawer. Inside were years of documents I'd kept out of habit, bank statements, insurance forms, even grocery receipts. And now that small gas station slip joined them. A single candle flickered on the desk. I lit it sometimes when I couldn't sleep, when the weight of memories pressed too hard. Tonight its glow steadied me. I leaned back, eyes closed, the storm outside fading to nothing but distant rumbles. Ava's words echoed still. Not a single cent. But behind the cruelty I heard something else. Fear. She knew deep down she hadn't earned it. And fear, I reminded myself, has a way of growing. I blew out the candle, the smoke curling upward like a question mark in the dark. My mind drifted backward, unspooling years of sacrifice. Rent I'd paid, debts. I'd erased nights I'd stayed awake so she could rest. If Ava believed she'd built this fortune alone, she had forgotten the foundation it stood on me. And as I closed my eyes that night, drenched in memory, I knew the storm had only just begun. The morning after the storm, I woke to silence. My apartment was still dark, the blinds half open, letting in a slice of gray light. On the nightstand lay the gas station receipt, folded neatly, as if it carried the weight of an entire life. I reached for it out of habit, and as my fingers brushed the thin paper, a sound echoed in my mind, the jingling of a small keychain. It wasn't there, of course, not in this room. It was a memory. Ava had given me that keychain when she was 8 years old, a little plastic dolphin from a boardwalk stand bought with the pocket money I'd slipped into her palm. "For your car keys, Daddy," she'd said, proud, as if she'd bought me the world. That dolphin had hung on my keys for decades, through every job change, every late-night drive, every move. I'd lost count of the number of times she'd teased me for still keeping it years later. "You really can't let go of anything, can you?" She'd laugh. She was right. I couldn't, not her. Not the memories, not the sacrifices. When Ava was little, life wasn't easy. I was working at the bank back then, mid-level, nothing glamorous. Her mother, Margaret, had already left by the time Ava turned 5. She said she needed freedom. That marriage felt like chains. She promised she'd visit. She didn't. So it was just me and Ava. I packed her lunches, learned how to braid her hair badly enough that she'd sigh and redo it herself, and sat through every school recital. I still remember one night when she came home with a crayon, drawing a stick figure with a tie, holding the hand of a smaller figure with pigtails. The caption said, "My dad is my hero." I kept that drawing pinned above my desk until the paper turned yellow at the edges. But heroes grow old and children grow restless. By the time she was 15, Ava started to pull away. She wanted nicer shoes, the kind her friends wore. She wanted rides to the mall, not walks to the library. I did what I could. Overtime shifts. Credit cards stretched thin. She didn't notice the nights I came home with swollen feet, or the stack of unpaid bills tucked into the drawer. Why would she? She was a teenager. Still, there were cracks. I remember one evening she was 16 and she came home furious. "Dad, why can't we have what everyone else has? Why do we always have to struggle?" Her words hit me harder than she knew.
I wanted to tell her we struggle.
"I chose to keep you. After all, I chose to stay when your mother left because I gave up chances at promotions so I could be home at night." But I didn't say that. Instead, I just nodded and promised, "One day, Ava, things will be different. I'll make sure of it." And maybe that was my mistake, making promises without proof. That's how the lottery ticket started. It was a silly ritual at first. On hard weeks when dinner was nothing but canned soup and bread, we'd stop by the gas station. She'd point at a slip of paper like it was a golden ticket. "Imagine it, Dad, $10 million. We'd be free. I'd play along. I'd say, sure, maybe I'll finally get that porch swing I keep talking about. We never expected to win, but hope became a habit, and habits became promises. If we ever win, Dad, I'll split it with you. Half and half. I got you. Those words, I got you. They were my lifeline some days, but people change when the world starts testing them. Ava's 20s were a blur of odd jobs and sudden boyfriends. I helped her move apartments 4 times in 2 years. Each time I wrote the deposit check because her credit was too shot. When her first son was born, I watched him while she scrambled for work or said she did. Sometimes she'd come home with the smell of bars on her clothes, claiming interviews had run late. I bit my tongue. For the boy's sake, for her sake. Dad, you're my rock, she'd say. I don't know what I'd do without you. And I believed her. God help me. I believed her. But belief is fragile. I remember the first time I caught her lying about money. She'd asked me to cover the electricity bill. I did. A week later, I found a receipt for a pair of designer shoes in her purse. When I asked, she rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Dad. It was just a sale. You worry too much. I told myself it was a slip. Everyone deserves a mistake. Except mistakes became patterns. Patterns became truth. Fast forward to just a month before the stormy night. She shut the door on me. Ava was between jobs again. I was cooking dinner, folding the boys' laundry, and covering half the bills from my pension. She'd started acting different, snapping at the kids. She jumped whenever her phone rang, whispering in the hallway with doors closed. I thought maybe she was depressed. Maybe life was heavier than she could bear. I told myself not to push. Then came that Thursday. We were watching the news. A story flashed across the screen. A winning lottery ticket sold just down the road. Someone in this neighborhood's a millionaire, the anchor said. Ava shifted on the couch. Didn't smile. Didn't joke. Just asked too casual. You ever buy from there? Yeah, I said. Picked one up Monday with the groceries. Why? She shrugged. Just curious. The next morning, the ticket was gone. I wanted to believe she hadn't touched it. That maybe I misplaced it. I searched the drawers, the fridge, and under stacks of mail. All I found was the magnet that used to hold it, just the magnet. A hollow smile staring at me from the white door of the fridge. I didn't ask her. I didn't want to see the lie in her eyes. Instead, I clung to her old promise, the one she'd made when she was 12, with crayons still on her fingers. If we ever win, Dad, I've got you. I thought maybe she'd surprise me. Maybe she'd still keep her word. But then she came home with new shoes, whispering on the phone, laughing too loudly at nothing. And 3 days later, she was gone. Dad, her voice echoed in memory from years ago when she was still small. Why does everyone leave? She'd asked that at 15 after her first heartbreak. I held her all night, whispering, I'll never leave, Ava. You can count on that. Now, years later, she was the one leaving. She hadn't even looked back. The memory broke when a car horn blared outside my apartment, dragging me into the present. I blinked, realizing I'd been staring at the same candles for an hour, lost in time. My hands gripped the edge of the desk until the knuckles whitened. Ava thought she'd rewritten history. That money erased memory. That bricks and chandeliers could replace the foundation I'd built. But memories don't vanish, they sharpen. And mine were sharper than any blade. I stood, slipped the gas station receipt into my wallet, and closed the folder. My reflection in the dark window stared back, lined gray but unbroken. The past had its weight, heavy, relentless, but it was also fuel. And as I turned off the light, leaving the room in silence, I knew the story wasn't over. Not for me, not for Ava. By 8 the next morning, the storm had thinned to a low ceiling of gray. I made coffee in the little drip pot that moaned more than it brewed, set the mug on a coaster I'd carved out of a cedar slice years ago, and pulled my old laptop toward me. The gas station receipt sat beside the trackpad like a visiting witness, pale and flimsy, but holding more weight than it had any right to. I didn't start with anger. I started with rules. State lottery ownership, I typed. The keys felt loud in the quiet apartment. A list of search results blinked up. I clicked what looked official, then scrolled, lips moving without sound as I read. Ticket is a bearer instrument until signed. Signature on the back establishes ownership. Lost or stolen tickets are the responsibility of the player. Disputes may be investigated. That last line I read twice, then a third time, letting each word settle the way a carpenter checks the fit of a joint before driving the nail. Signed. I knew I'd signed it. It's an old habit, one I picked up during my years at the bank, back when small details could save big problems. I taught tellers to ask for signatures to match names and to never assume good faith could do the work of good procedure. Funny, I thought that the habits I drilled into strangers might be the thing that saves me from my blood. I dragged a blank document onto the screen and began to list evidence. Beneath it I typed 1 receipt, gas and quick of forward 12. Monday 7:41 p.m. 2 signature on back. 3 camera footage if available. 4 bank record of purchase. I took a slow sip of coffee. It had gone tepid already, the way things do when your mind wanders. I reached for my wallet, slid out the receipt and laid it flat against the desk. The numbers were there. Date, time, terminal ID. The $2 line for a QP lotto. I opened my bank's website, the one I had scolded colleagues for making too complicated, and logged in. My pension hits on the 3rd utilities drain on the 1st grocery transactions make valleys in between. Life leaves a graph behind. I drilled down to the right day and found what I needed. Gas and quick number 412. 124.78, the milk, the bread, and 1 extra line that wouldn't show separately. But I remembered paying with a 5 and receiving change, then tapping my card for the rest. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. A small sound broke the room, the old refrigerator's compressor kicking on, and I realized I'd been holding my breath. I printed the bank page, then the lottery rolls, then the page with the commission's fraud reporting address. The printer coughed out the paper lopsided. I straightened the stack, squared the edges against the desk, then stapled the top corner with the careful precision of a man who still believes neatness is a kind of prayer. The signature I said aloud, and the word floated there like a stone I'd thrown into a lake to see how far the ripples would reach. I didn't have the ticket, she did. But I had something I didn't realize might matter until that moment. The way I've started to take pictures of small things because memory has grown slippery in spots. A habit born of age and a flip phone upgraded against my better judgment. I opened the photo library, which is a grand word for a small crowded box. Screenshots of football scores, a crooked selfie my grandson made the last time I took him for ice cream, and a blurry picture of a lawnmower I was thinking of buying. I scrolled looking for the shape I hoped I'd find. Not the numbers, no, but the yellowed corner of the fridge in Ava's old kitchen, the gaudy magnet shaped like a sun she bought at a thrift store, and a white slip caught beneath it. I had texted the numbers to myself sometimes so I wouldn't forget to check them later. Had I there a photo taken on Monday? It wasn't art. I'd snapped it to send to myself so I could check it that night, then forgot about checking. The ticket was angled. My phone had focused on the magnet's black eye instead of the print. But the digits were legible under a pinch and zoom, and at the bottom, smudged by kitchen light, and my shaky hand, you could make out the faint tail of a signature that looked almost like a line the pen had drawn by itself. WGR. It didn't scream proof, it whispered it. But whispers count when they're true. I saved a copy to a folder named after the case the bank used to keep for fraud CFU. We'd joke it meant careful follow-up. I never loved the joke. I still didn't. I set the laptop aside and took a shower, letting the hot water beat across my shoulders until the stiffness loosened. There's a kind of clarity heat gives you a steadiness that cold rain steals. I dressed in clean clothes because respect isn't something you owe only to courtrooms and churches. I buttoned a shirt just to sit alone in a car because dignity, when it's been ripped, asks you to stitch it back any way you can. Then I picked up the phone and called the number under gas and quick number 412. It rang 4 times before someone answered with a voice bent by early morning's quick stop. "This is Sam." "Good morning," I said. "My name is Walter Green. I was in your store on Monday evening around 7:40. I purchased a quick pick. I'm trying to confirm something about that transaction." He was quiet for a second. I pictured him balancing a handset on his shoulder while snapping a roll of coins into a register, one eye on the door, in case the morning regular came in for a scratcher and a coffee. "We don't keep purchase details here," he said cautiously. "You'd need to call the lottery terminal support for the ticket itself." "I understand," I said. "I'm not asking you to confirm the numbers. I'm asking whether your camera, if you have one over the counter, captures the register area. I signed the back of the ticket at your counter." "I'm hoping to verify that." He exhaled the way people do when they don't want to say yes and don't want to say no. "Our cameras record locally. We keep about 2 weeks' worth before it cycles. We don't give out footage to just anyone." "I wouldn't ask you to," I said. "If I came down with my ID, could I see whether it exists? If it does, I'll go through the proper channels for a copy. Another pause, paper crinkled, a drawer shut. We open in 20 minutes. Come at 10, ask for me. Samir Patel. Thank you, Mr. Patel, I said. I appreciate it. I hung up and stood for a second in my kitchen, listening to the buzzing fluorescent light and the wheeze of the radiator. My heart felt like someone had cupped it in a steady hand. You don't run in moments like this. You don't shout. You place one foot, then the next on the floor you still own, and you walk. On my way out, I took the folder, the receipt, and the printouts. I stacked them in an old manila envelope and wrote my name on the tab, underlining it twice. Habit. The drive to the gas and quick took me past the little park where I used to push Ava on a swing until my arms ached just so she'd laugh one more time higher. Daddy, higher. The swing set stood with its chains shining wet, empty in the gray light. Memory tried to reach for me. I let it come close but not touch. Not today. Samir was smaller than his voice suggested. A trim man with salt at his temples and a calm that told me he'd seen all kinds of mornings. He looked at my ID longer than most clerks do, and then at me longer than my ID. Come, he said, flipping the counter latch. You can stand at the desk. I can show you the time window, nothing more. I'm not here to make trouble, I told him, only to find the truth. He shrugged a single shoulder. Truth has a way of dragging trouble behind it. The back office smelled like cardboard and coffee that had been brewed before sunrise. A small monitor sat unevenly on a stack of copy paper, a black box under it with a green blinking light. Samir moved with practiced keystrokes through a menu that looked like something designed when screens were still surprised to be flat. He typed the date. He entered the time. The screen jumped to life with 4 grainy quadrants. One showed the door, one the candy aisle, one a view down the coolers, and one the one I needed. Looked straight across the counter to the lottery terminal. There, he said, pointing to a shape I recognized as my coat. My shoulders hunched against a wind I no longer remembered. The timestamp clicked from 7:40 to 7:41, and I watched myself hand over cash to a younger clerk, a kid who flirted with his phone when no one was looking. The clerk ripped a ticket. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a pen, the one I'd carried for years. A fat blue thing with a pocket clip that had bitten more shirts than I want to admit, and I leaned over. You could see the movement of my hand, the bend of my wrist, the way the pen paused right after a second letter, then lifted as if to dot an I that wasn't there. That's you, Samir asked. That's me, I said, and I heard my voice as if it had come from someone standing behind me. He looked at me again, measuring. We do not allow copies without a request from law enforcement or the commission, he said, the sentence memorized. But you can look for as long as you like. I understand, I said. May I raised my phone not to the screen but to my chest. May I capture a short clip of the screen for my records without taking it from your system? He dipped his chin in a nod that acknowledged the place where an official policy meets an unofficial mercy. I didn't see anything, he said, eyes on the monitor. I held my phone steady and recorded 30 seconds the shape of me, the kid, the movement of my pen. When the clip ended, I set the phone down as if it were heavy. My hands didn't tremble. I waited for them to, but they didn't. Thank you, I said, meaning more than the word could hold. Samir shrugged again, softer this time. You looked like a man who came to do the right thing, he said. That's rarer than people think. I bought a coffee I didn't need and drank it in 2 gulps so I'd have something to do with my hands. As I walked back to the car, the lot was half full contractors grabbing breakfast, a woman in scrubs texting near a pump, a guy arguing with his dashboard like the radio had tried to charge him rent. The world still turning still itself. I sat behind the wheel and watched the video again. It was as if I'd caught a piece of truth skittering across ice. It didn't want to be held, but I had it anyway. I saved a copy, then emailed it to myself with the subject WG ticket 7:41 p.m. If the phone died or the cloud forgot me, the email would not. On the drive across town, I stopped at the bank branch where I used to work. The carpet smelled the same, a mix of vacuum and old money, as if coins had a scent once and it never quite left. The teller was new to me, young, precise. Her name tag read Mara. She smiled, then did a double take as if my face had stepped out of a training video about good customer service. Can I help you, sir? I need a printed record of a specific transaction, I said, sliding my ID across and giving her the date and time for personal records. She nodded and clicked in that efficient way that told me someone had trained her. Well, here you are, she said, handing over a crisp printout with the line item circled in yellow. Do you need anything else? I considered asking for the manager for a letterhead statement or a notarized copy, but I held back. There's a timing to these things. Show up too heavy too early and people circle the wagons. Come too light too late and they close the door. This is enough for today, I said. Thank you. At the library, I scanned the receipt, the bank printout, the lottery rules page, and my photograph of the ticket under the sun magnet. I saved each as a PDF on a thumb drive I keep on my keyring right next to the tiny plastic dolphin Ava had bought me, when she still thought gifts were promises. I printed the images, placed them behind clear sheet protectors in an old binder I titled in black marker Ticket WG. Then, because the banker in me still believed paper is harder to argue with than pixels, I made a second copy of everything and slid it in a separate envelope that I sealed and signed across the flap. W. Green, today's date. You can't notorize yourself, but you can behave as if every step will one day be watched. On my way out, the library TV was tuned to the local news. The volume low. A banner crawled along the bottom. New millionaire anonymous claim it to be announced. The anchor smiled the way anchors do when they're telling you something that isn't news but feels like it should be. Sources say the winner is a single parent from the east side, she said. And the picture cut to a montage of the convenience store I just left, though they had the wrong angle. The Lottery Commission confirms the prize is in processing. Processing, I repeated under my breath, and the word tasted like a deadline. Outside, the light had shifted from gray to a blown-out white that made edges sharper. I sat on a bench and opened the manila envelope again, as if the papers might have changed while not being watched. They hadn't. They just sat there quietly insisting on what they were. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a second, my pulse jumped. A strange thing. How a small vibration can feel like a quake when your life's fault lines are already cracked. A text from an unknown number flashed a link and the caption, "She's on fire." I didn't click it. If Ava's friends wanted to fan her flames, that was their business. Mine was water. I called the Lottery Commission's general line. A recorded voice led me through a maze of numbers until a human answered, a woman whose tone was both tired and capable. "Lottery claims," she said. "How can I help you today?" "My name is Walter Green," I said, and gave her my full address before she asked for it because I've been the person at the other end of a phone for too many years not to know how to be easy to help. "I need to report a signed ticket that I believe has been claimed by someone other than the signer. I have the receipt bank record, a photo of the signed ticket on a refrigerator from the day of purchase, and I've viewed store footage that shows me signing the back at the counter." She didn't gasp. Professionals don't. She went quiet the way a person does when they take their job seriously. "Do you have a copy of your identification, Mr. Green?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I'll need you to send all documentation to our fraud review address," she continued, giving me an email and a reference number. "Do not send originals by mail. Digital copies are fine for initial review. Once opened, we can place a hold on any processing related to the ticket while we investigate. I want to be clear. We'll need to verify independently timestamps, camera systems, and terminal logs, but your description meets the criteria to open a case." "Can you tell me whether the payout has been issued?" I asked. "I can't discuss another person's claim," she said, "but I can tell you processing is not immediate. And if you submit today, a hold can be placed pending review." I wrote the email address and reference number in my notebook. I underlined it twice. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. At the apartment, I set my phone camera on a stack of books and recorded my screen, while I narrated what each document was. Receipt date, time, photo of the ticket on the fridge, bank record, footage clip of me signing. I emailed the files to the commission, copying the reference number into the subject line. Then I printed the sent email for the binder because, again, paper is a stubborn thing. It refuses to be edited without leaving fingerprints. My stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten. I opened a can of soup. Not because I wanted it, but because the body is a house you must maintain if you want to keep living in it. I ate at the counter with the manila envelope under my elbow as if proximity could keep it safe. I washed the bowl, dried it with a frayed towel to string, and hung it back on the hook where it had lived longer than some of my regrets. As the afternoon dipped toward evening, I made one more call. Not to Ava, not to Trey, to a name I hadn't said out loud in a while, Dana Briggs. We'd served on the church finance committee together when I still had patience for meetings that were mostly about who forgot to refill the sugar bowl. She'd always asked good questions about process and less pleasant ones about people. Now she practiced law out of a modest office near the courthouse, the kind of place where the chairs weren't designed to impress you. Her voicemail picked up. "This is Dana, leave it." "Dana?" I said after the beep. "It's Walter Green. I have a situation that involves a lottery ticket I signed and a claim I believe was filed by someone else. I've opened a case with the commission. I'd like to talk to you about next steps if you have time." I hung up and sat there with the receiver still in my hand, listening to the hollow hum of a line that wasn't mine anymore. I set it down. The radiator hissed. Outside, a car door slammed. A dog barked twice and then decided whatever it had been worried about wasn't worth it. I took out a yellow legal pad and wrote at the top in block letters plan. Below it, 4 bullets. Secure evidence done. Initiate official hold done, counsel pending. Do not engage with Ava or Trey. I circled the last one until the paper softened. There's a kind of bait people throw when they think they're winning. Words meant to hook you into a fight you can't win because the ring belongs to them. I would not step in. I would not give them the video they wanted of an old man shouting at a gate, while a camera recorded him for the court of public opinion. The sun found a way through the gray and put a thin slice of light across my desk. It touched the edge of the dolphin keychain, the plastic nicked from years of knocking against the ignition. I put the keys in my palm and closed my fingers around them, feeling the cool shape press into my skin. Some people would call that sentimental. I call it inventory. What do you have? What's yours? What matters? I checked my email one last time. The commission had replied, received. Case number opened. Please allow 24/7 2 hours for initial review. Do not share case details publicly. We will contact you if additional documentation is required. I nodded at the screen like it could nod back. Thank you, I said. And if anyone had been there to hear, they might have thought I was praying. I shut the laptop and let the room go dim. My body asked for sleep. My mind put a hand on its shoulder and said, not yet. I walked to the window and looked down at the street where a neighbor dragged a garbage bin to the curb, its wheels complaining over a crack in the pavement. Life making its noises. I watched until the bin settled, then stepped back, pulled the cord on the blinds, and turned toward the hallway. At the bedroom door, I paused the way you do before you turn out the last light. In my head, I saw again the grainy image of my hand moving across that slip of paper at 7:41 p.m. I saw the pen pause and lift. I saw my name where it belonged. I flicked the switch. The room fell into a soft kind of dark that invites memory but doesn't bow to it. Tomorrow, I told the quiet. We'll let the facts do the talking. From the kitchen, the fridge clicked off and the apartment became very still. I lay down fully clothed, one hand on the manila envelope as if it were a life jacket I could wear even on land. In the space between waking and sleep, Ava's voice came back. Not the one from last night full of steel and theater, but the small one that used to ask from the back seat. How much longer, Dad? I pictured myself at a stoplight, eyes on the road, answering the only way a good driver does when the destination is certain and the route is patient. Not long now, I said, and the dark listened without judgment as the truth I'd set in motion kept walking toward the morning. The next day would not start with me speaking. It would start with a phone vibration, a neighbor's aside, a news crawl changing a single verb, a small thing that meant the weather over Ava's new life had turned. And with that, the first seeds of chaos would find their soil. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. It began not with a storm this time, but with a vibration. My phone buzzed against the kitchen counter just after 9 in the morning, rattling the porcelain mug I hadn't yet rinsed. I let it hum a second longer before picking it up as if hesitation could buffer me from bad news. The caller ID read Frank Miller. My neighbor from the house Ava had walked out just weeks ago. Frank wasn't the type to call unless he had something to say. I thumbed accept and held the phone close. Walter Frank said, his voice low like a man trying not to wake someone. Saw something this morning I figured you'd want to know. I braced my back, stiffening. Go on. There was a truck, big U-Haul, parked out front of AA's place before sunrise. 2 guys hauling boxes, furniture, even bags of clothes. She was out there in a robe giving orders like she couldn't leave fast enough. My grip tightened on the phone. You're sure it was Ava? I've lived across from you for 30 years. I know your daughter when I see her. He paused and I heard the scratch of his cigarette lighter. Funny thing though, house still has the ribbon on the door, right? Most folks move in after weeks. She's already moving again. Don't add up. I closed my eyes. The picture formed itself. Ava directing strangers in the early dawn, heels clicking against wet pavement. Urgency dripping from every motion. She wasn't moving in. She was running. Thank you, Frank, I said evenly. You be careful, Walter, he added. She looked different, hard, like she was guarding something, not enjoying it. When I hung up, my hand lingered on the receiver. A fresh truth pressed against my ribs. Ava wasn't building a life. She was fortifying a lie. I opened my laptop, still warm from the night before, and scrolled through the familiar feed of half news, half noise. It didn't take long. Her face appeared, Ava's smile frozen wide. Trey's arm looped around her waist like he'd bought the right to be permanent. From broke to blessed, dreams do come true. That was the caption beneath a photo of them on marble steps, champagne flutes raised. The comments scrolled like confetti. So proud of you, girl. Knew you'd make it. Winners don't need baggage. Baggage. That's what I had become in their story. My eyes drifted to the profile picture of the account she'd tagged Elite Really Dallas. I clicked. Luxurious homes lined the street, each caption dripping with words like exclusive and once in a lifetime. And their 2 posts back, Ava again, keys dangling from her hand. Trey lifting her off her feet in front of a glass mansion. But what caught my attention wasn't the smile or the house. It was the caption beneath. Congratulations to our newest buyers, Ava and Trey. Cash purchase. A true success story. Cash purchase. The word sliced clean. She hadn't financed. She hadn't mortgaged. She had dropped money, my money, without even pausing to breathe. I stared at the screen until the edges blurred. Then I called the only person who would understand the subtext, Dana. Her voice came calm, steady, the kind of tone that makes you sit straighter. Walter, I was just about to call you. I got your message. I have something new. I said she's flaunting it. Photos, posts, and even tagged the real estate agent. The caption said, cash purchase. Can that help? On the other end, Dana exhaled a slow, practiced breath. It helps more than you know. People who steal rarely hide it. They advertise it. They want applause before anyone asks questions. Will the commission care? They'll care, she said firmly, because every dollar she spends is traceable. Once the payout is frozen, those purchases will be scrutinized. If she paid cash, we can argue she liquidated stolen winnings. That ties her claim directly to fraud. I let the silence carry for a moment. Then, so her arrogance is evidence. Exactly. Keep collecting, Walter. Screenshots, timestamps, anything. Don't engage. Let her write her indictment. The conversation ended, but her words echoed. Let her write her indictment. So I did. I scrolled deeper into Ava's profile, saving everything. The rooftop parties, the glittering handbags, the champagne fountains. I wasn't looking at celebrations. I was looking at confessions typed in gold font. And then another twist, buried beneath her self-congratulations, a comment from someone I hadn't seen in years. Didn't your dad always buy those tickets with you? Thought he was the one with the ritual, not you. It was a throwaway from an old neighbor, but it was public. And Ava's reply cut sharply. He had nothing to do with this. He's just a leech. I finally cut loose. My stomach turned, but not from the insult. From the slip. She had admitted it in a way. By denying me publicly, she tied herself to the lie, and lies leave trails. I closed the laptop and leaned back, staring at the ceiling, where a crack split the plaster like a road map. The past had lines too, fractures you can follow if you know where to look. Dad, Ava had once whispered after a breakup. Her teenage eyes read, why does everyone leave? And I'd told her, not everyone leaves, Ava, not me. But now she was the one leaving boxes, trucks, captions, and cash. And I realized she wasn't just leaving me. She was leaving truth behind. The day slipped toward evening. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from an unknown number. You think you're owed something, old man? Back off, she doesn't need you. No signature. But I knew the rhythm. Trey. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering. Then I locked the screen. Silence was heavier than any reply. As dusk pressed against the window, I sat with the binder in my lap. Inside were papers, receipts, screenshots, the skeleton of a story that hadn't yet learned to stand. Ava thought she'd erased me, but every move she made carved her name deeper into the record of theft. The night fell, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the radiator. I rose, walked to the window, and watched the street lamps blink awake one by one. Their glow reminded me of fireflies Ava used to chase in the yard, back when wonder was enough. Now the glow came from screens and spotlights, from attention bought and borrowed, but just like fireflies, it wouldn't last. I let the blinds fall shut. The room slipped back into shadow, and in that shadow I felt the first seed of chaos take root. The next morning wouldn't start with me. It would start with someone else, an old acquaintance stepping back into my orbit, a voice from the past carrying both warmth and promise, reminding me I wasn't alone in this fight. And with that, the path toward allies would open. I saw the blue thermos first, same one she used to bring to the bank on days the heat knocked the air out of the lobby. Bernadette Lawson, Bernie, to anyone who'd ever sweated through a quarterly audit with her, sat in the corner booth at Earl's Diner, steam drifting from the lip of that battered thermos as if it had something wise to say. She looked up before I reached the table, and the lines around her eyes folded into a weathered smile that understood two things at once. I was hurting, and I was here to do something about it. "Walter," she said, standing halfway the way people do when they want to hug you. "But also know there are years and habits between you and that kind of ease." She squeezed my hand instead. Her grip could have held a door shut in a storm. "Sit. Coffee is better from the pot than the pot looks." I slid into the booth. The vinyl creaked. The window beside us framed a pale morning. Cars passing like slow thoughts. "I saw the post," she said, not bothering to pretend she hadn't. "Congratulations from people who never sent a condolence card. Champagne flutes like trophies. Cash purchase." Her mouth pulled to one side. "It's always the word they think will save them that sinks them." "I didn't ask you to meet to make you choose sides," I said. "Good," she answered. "Because I picked my side a long time ago. Process proof. People who do the right thing when it's ugly. Don't argue with me, Walter Green. We've been friends longer than your daughter's been an adult." The waitress slid 2 chipped mugs onto the table and poured coffee that smelled like it remembered better days. Bernie added cream from a tiny plastic tub. I didn't. "I opened a case with the commission," I said, lowering my voice out of habit. The word commission always made me feel like I was about to ask someone permission, to be honest. Sent the receipt, the bank record, and a photo of the signed ticket on the fridge. I recorded the store camera and Samir let me look. "They've placed a hold while they review." "Good," she said, like a period you can stand on. "Now put rails around the rest." I blinked. "Rails? You ever watch the loadout at the shipping yard?" She asked, then waved the question away. "Doesn't matter. A lot of people think control is a single action. It's a fence, Walter. You build a perimeter. You decide where the fight can and can't happen, and where should it happen on paper and systems, not on her porch, not in her comments, not in anyone's camera phone." She tapped her thermos. "I'm going to make a couple of calls after breakfast. One to a title officer I trust. One to a guy I mentored who does compliance for a regional bank. You say she bragged cash purchase. That means a wire or a cashier's check, not a suitcase. Title companies still like to know what pond the money swam out of." She leaned in. "And the county doesn't record a deed because someone held up a key for Instagram. If there's no instrument number in the clerk's record, that house is still a story, not a fact." I let the information settle. A small bolt loosened behind my ribs. "Walter," she said softer, "I'm not here to make promises I can't keep. I'm here to create friction where there's been nothing but glide. That's usually enough to let the truth catch up." The waitress returned with 2 plates we hadn't ordered. "Bernie's special," she said, setting down eggs and dry toast like holy offerings. "He looks like he needs it. I owe you." I told both of them and meant it. "You'll get your turn," Bernie said. "Right now, eat." I picked at the toast more because she asked than because I was hungry. The diner hummed with those small sounds that make a life feel held together, silverware against plates. Someone laughing too loud, the door chiming when a regular walked in. I set the mug down and felt the table's wobble come up through my palms. Bernie slid a folded napkin under the short leg without looking. She'd been fixing wobbles longer than I'd been admitting I needed something to lean on. Like the sender thought grammar was a kind of surrender, I didn't answer. I reached instead for the recorder, clicked it on, and spoke quietly into it. 2:14 p.m. Text received from unknown number. Content threat. No reply. Logged. Then I set the device down beside the dolphin keychain on Bernie's desk. The plastic dolphin's tail caught the light and sent a small bright shape onto the wood like a fin breaking the surface. Bernie watched the reflection skitter. "You still keep that, huh?" "It's made it through more moves than my pride," I said. "Good," she answered. "Both are more stubborn than they look." We finished the day in increments. Dana's email went out with the title. Title replied with something bland and beautiful. "We have received your correspondence and will respond upon internal review." Translation: "We heard you. We're pausing." Marta confirmed again at the close of business. "Still no instrument number recorded." The commission's case portal showed my documents in a list with green check marks. I copied the screen and printed it because habit, because paper. On the way down the narrow stairs to the street, Bernie paused on the landing and turned back to me. "This is where I tell you a thing you already know." She said there will be a moment when she calls not to apologize, to negotiate your patience. She will make small noises that sound like remorse but are really logistics. If you want to save yourself pain, say as little as you can, and only what you'd be proud to read back later. "I can do that," I said, though I wasn't sure if it was a promise to her, or to the man I'd been before all this started. She took my hand again, that same steady grip from the diner. "You're doing fine," she said. "And even when you're not, you're still doing right." We stepped onto the sidewalk. The hardware man was rolling a barrel of salt to the curb. The sky had a look that said, the evening might freeze. Bernie pointed with her chin toward my car. "Go home. Eat something that doesn't come from a can. If the phone rings, let the recorder hear it first." "And you?" I asked. "I'm going to buy nails even if I don't need them," she said. "Sometimes you support a place simply because it's been standing where it should for longer than you deserve." We laughed soft and brief, then went our separate ways. In the driver's seat, I sat with my hands on the wheel but didn't turn the key yet. The binder rested on the passenger seat belt looped through its spine as if it were a person I was getting home safely. The streetlight came on early, throwing a clean white across the dashboard. My phone buzzed with an email from Dana, title acknowledged. Pause. Commission confirmed hold in the system. We keep our lane. I nodded to no one. The dolphin keychain clicked lightly against the column when I shifted into drive. In the rear view, I caught a sliver of Bernie through the hardware store's window, head bent over a bin of screws, the shape of someone who knew where the small pieces go so the whole stays together. I drove home the long way past the park, past the bench where I'd sat with my grandson licking ice cream before the sun decided to forgive the day, past the church where I used to count bills from the collection plate carefully enough to embarrass the generous, past the street where Ava learned to ride a bike and I learned how to run beside someone without grabbing the handlebars when they wobbled. You have to let them course correct. You don't have to pretend the ditch is the road. At the apartment, the radiator hissed a welcome. I warmed leftovers in a pan because Bernie's voice followed me, and I didn't want to argue with good counsel. I ate at the counter with the recorder beside me, the little red light off but ready. When I washed the plate, I used more soap than necessary, as if cleanliness could climb up into the rest of my life and make order. I sat finally and opened the binder again. The documents didn't tell me I was right. They told me what was true. There's a difference. One begs for agreement. The other isn't waiting. I closed the cover and ran my hand over the black marker letters. Ticket WG until the ink's slight ridge mapped itself into my palm. Outside somewhere not far, a siren wailed, then settled. A neighbor sang to a baby in a language I didn't understand but recognized as love. The building breathed. The phone didn't ring that night. Not with voices I needed to hear. Not with apologies I didn't. I set the recorder on the nightstand anyway. I placed the dolphin on top of it like a paperweight against forgetting. Before sleep took me, I spoke once into the dark to the part of me that wanted to knock on a door and demand history back. Stay, I said. We keep our lane. Morning would bring paper, the good kind. Dana's drafts, Samir's affidavit notarized. The title letter on letterhead. A formal packet to the commission with an index that a judge would nod at. Quiet tools for a loud problem, and with them the next turn of the screw. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. The sound was faint, almost polite. A mechanical click followed by the whir of my old printer warming itself awake. The first sheet slid out, curling at the edges, smelling faintly of heated ink. On the page was the opening line of Dana's affidavit draft I, Walter Green, purchased. Quick pick ticket number X3427 at gas and quick number 4 on 2 on Monday at 7:41 p.m. Signed the back immediately upon purchase and retained possession until it was unlawfully taken. That sentence sat heavier than the page it was printed on. It wasn't just paper. It was the first nail in a structure meant to outlast lies. The day began not with grief, not with rain, but with tools, printer, stapler, recorder, pen. I spread them across the kitchen table as if arming myself for a quiet war. The world fights with noise. I would fight with proof. The phone rang at 9. I hit record on the device Bernie had given me before answering. Walter, it's Dana. Calm as always. The affidavit is ready. Bring your documents. We'll notarize and index everything today. And one more thing, keep your phone near. If she or Trey calls, let them speak. Do not interrupt. Words are evidence. Silence is strategy. I understand, I said. Good, she replied. I'll see you in an hour. The drive to her office felt like crossing invisible borders. Each turn of the wheel took me further from being a father who had been cast aside and closer to a man reclaiming what was his. The city passed by without drama. School buses, stoplights, grocery carts rolling across asphalt. But the ordinariness made my pulse steady. Justice, after all, is built on ordinary pieces, receipts, signatures, timestamps. Dana's office sat above a dry cleaner, her name stenkled in plain black on frosted glass. Inside, the air smelled of paper and a faint trace of lemon polish. She met me at the door with a firm nod, a folder tucked under her arm. Walter, she said, we billed the record today. We sat at her desk and she laid out the stack like a dealer who knows the deck. Receipt, she said, placing my original slip in a clear sleeve. Bank record. Another sleeve. Photo of the ticket on the fridge. She adjusted the brightness on her monitor, zooming in on the faint tail of my signature. This alone is powerful, she said. It shows contemporaneous possession. Most claimants don't have this. Finally, she lifted the affidavit from Samir, the gas station owner. His neat handwriting filled the lines. His signature sealed in blue ink. Third-party corroboration, Dana said. This takes it from your word against hers to an ecosystem of proof. I stared at the pages. They looked so thin, but together they were thicker than her lies. Dana, I said quietly, what happens if she finds out? If she realizes the payout's frozen, she will. Dana answered, folding her hands, and she will rage. Expect calls, threats, please. All designed to push you into noise. Your task is silence or a single sentence. The matter is with the commission. Nothing more. Don't fight in their theater, Walter. We fight here. Her certainty steadied me. The next hour passed like clockwork. She notarized my affidavit, indexed every document, numbering them in a binder with a table of contents neat enough to make an accountant smile. She printed a cover letter. Dear Commission enclosed, please find notarized affidavit, third-party witness statement, and supporting documentation. Claimant asserts rightful ownership under statute. I signed each page. The pen's weighed heavier than it had ever felt. Each stroke was a quiet defiance. You can erase me from your dinner table, but not from the record. Just as we finished binding the folder, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Dana gestured for me to answer on speaker. I pressed record. A voice exploded down the line. Trey's sharp cracking with panic. You think you're clever, old man, freezing accounts, making calls? You don't know who you're messing with. This money is Ava's. She deserves it. You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore. I let silence stretch. Say something, he barked. Dana held up a finger. I breathed once slowly, then I said, the matter is with the commission, and I hung up. Dana smiled slightly. Perfect. By the time I left her office, the sun had broken through the clouds. I walked down the narrow stairwell carrying the binder pressed against my chest like it was both shield and compass. Outside traffic murmured, life carried on indifferent. But I felt the axis tilt. At home, I set the binder on the table, slid the recorder beside it, and turned off the lamp. The apartment dimmed to quiet. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled without tasting bitterness. The arsenal was ready, and it would not be long before she felt the weight of it. Her card declined at a store, her lips curling in disbelief. The first crack in the glass palace she thought she'd built. At 3:14 p.m., the first crack sounded somewhere on some glossy counter. A screen blinked a single word, declined. I didn't see it, I felt it. The way a building learns that one hairline fracture has turned into many. My phone began to buzz on the table beside the binder. The little red light on the recorder leaping awake as my hand reached for it. Unknown number. I pressed record before I answered. This is Walter. Static, then a voice trying too hard to be steady. Ava. Dad, she said, as if she were asking a clerk to honor a return. My card, there must be a glitch. Did you do something? The matter is with the commission, I said, and listened to the silence stretch out between us like a bridge that no longer met the other side. She exhaled through her nose, a sound I knew from childhood when the shoe she wanted wasn't on sale. Don't do this, she said, the words coming faster now. You think this is teaching me a lesson? You're humiliating me. They're looking at me like I'm. She stopped. Fix it. I can't fix what isn't mine, I said. The commission will review. God, she snapped. And then the click landed in my ear like a slap. The recorder hummed on. I set the phone down next to it and wrote the time in my log. 3:14 first call, calm then heat. Not 5 minutes later, the phone buzzed again. Different number. Same storm. This time it was the real estate agent's office. A woman whose voice was lacquered with courtesy. Mr. Green, this is Fallon with Elite Reality. I'm calling to let you know that the title company has contacted us regarding a hold on funds. We're not at liberty to discuss client details, but in the normal course, my attorney will communicate with the title. I said, thank you for the courtesy. A pause and something almost like relief in her tone. Of course, sir, we appreciate your professionalism. After she hung up, I stood for a moment with my hand still on the phone, feeling the tables wobble creep up my arm. Not victory, not yet. Just gravity changing direction. Things fall differently when the air itself has shifted. The third strike came through someone else's eyes. A buzz. A text from a number I recognized only because it once brought over a casserole when I had the flu. Leah. The cousin who floats in and out of family orbit like a balloon that sometimes remembers it's tied to a wrist. She'd sent a video grainy and sideways. The inside of a boutique. A row of scarves. A register with a tiny bell that looked ornamental and cruel. Ava is at the counter. The clerk's smile stiffened. The screen is flaring red. Ava's mouth tightened into the line she makes when she refuses to hear a no that is not shaped like a yes. You seeing this? Leah typed underneath. I am, I wrote back. Thank you. She replied with a single sentence that wasn't unkind. She needs you to be the parent you are being. I didn't answer. It was enough to know someone else could see the outlines of the truth from a distance I couldn't choose. The recorder's light glowed steadily. I placed it in my shirt pocket. It sat there like a second heartbeat. By 4, the calls had settled into a pattern. A ping from title confirming a pause. A short, efficient voicemail from Dana. All good, they acknowledged. Stay the course. And a text from Bernie that made me exhale. Marcia says, still no deed. Escrow is a refrigerator now. Door shut, light off. At 4:30, Trey found the number I answered. The line opened with laughter that didn't belong to humor. Congratulations, he said. The word cracked in the middle. You win. Other men your age build model trains. You build complaint files. I said nothing. The recorder whirred gently. You feel like a man. And he pressed. You know how this looks. An old guy trying to steal his daughter's future because he can't stand that she finally made it without him. The matter is with the commission. I repeated, and I tasted how the sentence asked nothing of me but accuracy. You're a joke, he hissed, the mask slipping. You lost your wife. You lost your house. And now you'll lose this. You hear me? And you, I said quietly. Lost the chance to be decent. For a breath, he had nothing. Then he spat the truth he didn't mean to expose. Fine, you want a deal? We'll give you something to go away. 20%, half if you shut up. You get closure. We keep the life we earned. Earned. The word made something steady rise in me. A plank of wood set in place. I don't bargain with thieves, I said, and ended the call. I couldn't keep still, so I washed a dish that was already clean, then made tea I didn't plan to drink. The kettle's thin whistle threaded the room, and my muscles remembered there are rituals older than outrage. I stood by the window and watched the fog lift off the asphalt. The streetlight flickered, decided it wasn't evening yet, and went dark again. The next call I answered. Walter Dana said, Title just confirmed to me directly that they are pausing the closing. We're past courtesy now. It's policy. The commission filed a formal hold on disbursement pending verification of signature and custody. What does that mean for her, I asked. Not using Ava's name because I wasn't sure what to call what bound us in that second. It means the faucet has been turned off. Dana said, the bucket might still be full in places, but nothing new is pouring in. Expect noise. Expect escalation. Expect requests for you to explain yourself to people who aren't entitled to explanations. Silence. Then, you doing okay, Walter? I'm standing up straight, I said. That's more than okay, she answered and hung up. At 5:12, the phone rang again. No number. Private. I almost let it go to voicemail, then clicked the green circle and let the recorder catch up. It was Ava. No mask, no smile. Just breathe first, then words. I didn't know. She said, didn't know what I asked. That you would fight. The last word was smaller than the rest. I waited. In that waiting, something settled that had been shaking for a long time. I thought you'd just take the hint, she said. Go, be grateful for what I did for you. What you did for me, I repeated like an echo in a room that had never said that sound before. I let you stay, didn't I? After the divorce, when you couldn't keep up with the mortgage, I let you move into my space, my life. I let you be part of it. That has to count for something. There it was. The math that had broken us long before money entered the room. Generosity as a ledger, where she was always the credit and I was always the debt. You didn't let me be part of anything I said. I built the table you sat at. I held the walls up while you hammered at them. I raised your boys while you relearned how to be proud. I didn't keep a list, Ava. But if I did, it wouldn't look like yours. You're being cruel, she said. No, I said I'm being exact. She sniffed a small sound that wanted to be a sob, kept turning back into anger. If I give you something, will you stop? No, I said, because what you offered wasn't yours to give. God, she said again, softer now. I can't show my face. Do you know what people are saying? You wanted them to say it when you posted it. I answered, you wanted a chorus for your victory. You have an audience now. You just don't like the play. Dad, she started, then didn't finish a breath. Do you remember when I was little and I used to climb into your bed because I couldn't sleep? You'd tell me to listen to the refrigerator hum and pretend it was waves. You'd say the night is just water you float on until morning. I believed you. The memory pressed a thumb into a bruise I thought had already gone yellow. I swallowed. Do you remember I asked the time you were 12 and you drew me a picture of a little house with a porch swing and you wrote, if we win, we'll share. You believe that too? I was a kid, she said. Yes, I said. And I let you stay one longer than you were. I hate you, she whispered. And the line went dead. I breathed out. I wrote the time, the facts, a sentence and a half to mark the places I knew would matter to someone who didn't live inside my bones. I set the pen down and stared at the note until the words stopped looking strange. The evening took its shape. Shadows lengthening behind the radiator, the hum deepening until it sounded like waves. I ate what was left of lunch. I made a fresh pot of coffee because the body is a machine and sometimes needs a different kind of fuel. I stood in the doorway to the bedroom and said, Lo, you're doing fine, because Bernie's voice had become a kind of handrail in my head. At 6, the news finally swung its lens my way. I wasn't on the screen. I was in the crawl along the bottom. Lottery Commission confirms temporary hold on 10 Mealers payout amid routine verification. Routine. The word was a gift. It said this wasn't a spectacle. It was a process. It said the road had lines and I was traveling between them. My phone chimed with a message from Bernie saw the crawl. Routine equal oxygen. Keep breathing. I typed back, thank you. At 7:02, another text from a number that carried its stink. Meet no lawyers. Work this out. Trey again or someone who thought like him. I let the recorder hear me read it aloud. I wrote no, then deleted it and closed the thread. No reply is a reply when the whole point is to drag you into a room with no air. Around 8, the world narrowed to small domestic things that make a life the slap of a dish towel against the sink. The tiny squeak of a window when you pull it down. The way the last of the daylight curls around the bookshelf and decides to stop there in that quiet. A sound I didn't expect, the low, slow knock on my door. I froze for a second, a muscle memory from the years when surprise at a door rarely meant harm but sometimes meant debt. I slid the recorder into my pocket, walked to the peephole and looked. Not Trey, not a stranger. Frank, my old neighbor holding a paper bag like an offering. I opened the door and the hallway light made us both look older than we felt. I was at the deli, he said. They had pot roast in the case that didn't look like it had given up. Thought you might be tired of soup. I stepped aside. Come in. He didn't. He held the bag out and stood like a man bringing news to a soldier. She's in a mood, he said, nodding in a direction that no longer contained my house. Lots of doors opening and shutting. Lots of words that aren't meant for old ears. I figured I'd tell you so you didn't think your silence went unheard. Thank you, I said. I meant the food, the report, the respect. He shifted from foot to foot the way men do when they care and don't say it out loud. You did right, he said finally. Not that you need me to say it. It matters when someone you live near a long time does the quiet thing right. He tipped his chin like a salute, then turned. Eat warm, he said, and the stairwell swallowed him. I locked the door and set the bag on the counter. In it, a wax paper parcel heavy with kindness. A loaf of bread that still breathed out the heat of an oven. I made a plate. The meat fell apart under my fork. Some days the universe speaks in protein. The 9th call of the day came while the plate was still warm. This time the caller ID showed a name I hadn't expected. Elite, really? I pressed record. A different voice. An older man practiced at apologies that aren't admissions. "Mr. Green," he said, "this is Robert King. I manage sales oversight. I wanted to reach out personally to assure you that our company respects all legal processes. We have placed a courtesy hold on public F-facing posts related to the property in question until the matter you referenced is resolved. In the interim, if any agent of ours misrepresented the status of a sale, we regret that and will correct it." "That's appreciated," I said. The words tasted like something grown on rocky soil. He cleared his throat. "If your counsel or the commission needs anything from us, they may contact me directly." "Understood," I said. "Mr. Green?" "Yes?" "Not everyone sees the difference between attention and approval." He said, "You do. Good evening." He hung up before I could answer. I stood very still for a long moment in the kitchen, breathing through my nose. Attention isn't approval. I'd known that for years in rooms where applause had nothing to do with integrity. Hearing it now from a man who'd probably never cleaned a dish in my sink, flipped a switch on the inside of a wall I didn't know had wires. By 9 the night had gone honest. It admitted it was dark and stopped pretending it would be otherwise for a while. Or maybe it was just that I was finally standing tall. "Dad," she said, blocking my path. "Don't do this. Please do what I asked. Take everything. Leave us with nothing. You left me with nothing." "First," I said. Her lips parted, but no words came. For a moment, the years between us, the birthday parties, the scraped knees, the nights of whispered stories stood there asking us to choose them again. Neither of us did. Trey appeared behind her eyes, darting, scanning the street as if cameras were hidden in every corner. "Come on," he muttered. "This isn't helping." Ava turned to him, her face folding into something I hadn't seen in years. Doubt. Then she looked back at me. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice trembling. "No," I said, "you will." I walked past them down the steps, each footfall loud enough to be a verdict. By the time I reached my apartment, the snow had started. Tiny flakes, almost invisible, coating the world in a silence that felt like judgment. I set the recorder down, flipped through my notebook, and realized for the first time in weeks I wasn't writing alone. The law was written with me now. But deep inside, another voice whispered a warning I couldn't ignore. The storm wasn't over. It was only just beginning. It started with a noise I recognized from another life, the slow reverse beep of a tow truck, long unembarrassed the sound a machine makes when it isn't ashamed of taking something back. I was at the kitchen sink rinsing a cup I'd already cleaned when Frank called. "Walter," he said, voice low like a man calling from inside a church. "They're taking the convertible." I moved to the window, careful not to tug the blind. Across the street, under a sky the color of a nicked spoon, a tow truck had its bed slanted like a tongue. The shiny car Ava had posted with a caption about manifesting success sat at an angle that made it look surprised. A man in a knit cap hooked a chain, clicked it twice, and looked at no one. Trey paced on the sidewalk, hands flapping in a rhythm I'd seen in men who had lost the room. "They're not fighting?" I asked. Frank took a breath. "Words only. He keeps saying it's a lease. It's a lease. Like saying it changes the math." She won't meet his eyes. "Thank you," I said. "I'll let you know if it turns into a show," he said, and hung up before either of us had to say that we'd seen enough shows already. My phone buzzed on the counter, an email subject line and clean bureaucratic font, escrow status on hold. I opened it. "Dear Counsel, it read under your request and notice from the State Lottery Commission disbursement is suspended pending verification. Please be advised that possession before closing is not authorized by this office." The words lined up like fence posts. I didn't need to decorate them to feel safe behind them. At 7:22, Bernie texted Marta, checked again. "Still no deed. Your lane is holding. A minute later, eat something." The woman knew which part of the day went first. I put bread in the toaster, not because I wanted it, but because the small heat helps. The house stayed quiet in a way that didn't feel like mercy. Around 8, the quiet broke. A clatter in the hallway, the dull thud of something heavy striking a wall. Then a single knock, firm flat, as if the person on the other side wanted to prove they could knock without desperation. When I opened the door, Trey filled the frame. He had the look of a man who'd been chased by his plans and didn't like the hunter he recognized. Behind him, the hallway smelled like wet wool and fear. "You think this is over?" he said without hello. "You strangled her. You strangled us." I stepped back without inviting him in. "Don't mistake the door for a confessional," I said. "Say what you came to say and leave." He smirked, but it was more mouth than belief. "You know what the internet thinks? They think you're cruel. They think you're stealing a future from your blood. The internet will move on to someone else's fire by dinner, I said. The truth won't. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. You think because you have papers and old friends at offices you win, you're going to be alone. She won't forgive you. Those boys won't. I didn't raise my voice. I just cut in. Don't use them like props in your speech. You're not at a rally. For a second, the anger slipped and I saw what sat behind it: panic. The drumming of a man who knows the room he built needs another door, and he hasn't got the tools. He straightened as if stretching could make him taller. Last chance, he said. Tell your lawyer to lift the hold. You get a cut. We don't bury you online. Everybody wins. No, I said. Everybody grows up. That's what happens next. He laughed too loud for the hallway. You'll regret this, he said. And then he was gone, his boots slapping stairs like a man leaving a scene instead of a life. I closed the door, clicked the recorder on the table, and spoke the facts into it. Time, words, threat reframed as an offer. Offer declined. When I played it back, I caught something I hadn't heard in real time, my voice steady enough to build on. At 9:03, Leia sent a video. You should see her, text said. The clip was sideways and breathless, shot through a car window like guilt. Ava was on her porch, hair pulled into a knot she hadn't looked at in a mirror. A stack of boxes on the steps. A woman with a clipboard at the door, property manager, by the way. She held a pen like it had a cousin in her earbud. No shouting, just the kind of conversation you have when there's nothing left to negotiate. Occupancy is not permitted until closing. The woman was saying, we'll allow a pickup window today between noon and 2. After that, locks change. Ava nodded too many times like people do when they hope nodding counts as currency. The clipboard woman didn't notice. She was counting, not watching. Leah's next text attached a screenshot. Elite really has removed a post. Below it, the caption: correction, the sale referenced is pending verification. We regret any misunderstanding. The brand found it's neutral. The audience would call it boring. Boring is what rescue looks like from far away. By 10, Dana called. Commission is moving, she said. They verified the store footage independently. They want your original penmanship sample signatures from the last 12 months. Bring a check register if you have one. I do, I said. I keep a book. Of course you do, she said. And there was warmth in the of course. Also, they're drafting a public clarification. No date yet. Could be fast. Keep your phone on, and Walter. You might get journalists sniffing around. You say nothing. I've been practicing nothing all my life, I said. She laughed once quickly. The noon hour pinched. Snow flicked against the windows like static. At 12:11, the building's buzzer went twice uncertain. I pressed the intercom. It's me, Ava said. No staging, no preamble. Just the word that used to be enough to open any door I owned. I pressed the release. The click sounded like a decision. She came up the stairs slowly as if each step might move under her. When she reached my landing, she looked past me into the apartment the way a person looks into a childhood room they've already sold, checking what they forgot to feel. In one hand, she held a plastic grocery bag with 2 cereal boxes and a loaf of bread crushed into an oval. On her face, the stiff shine of a woman who ran out of waterproof mascara before she ran out of weather. Can I come in? She asked. You can stand where you are and speak, I said. Then I stepped back 3 FT to make the distance honest. I don't have time for your rules, she said. But her voice didn't carry the old snap. Something else was there. Not an apology, not yet. Accounting may be the kind you do at the end of a day when the drawer doesn't match the tape. Then say what you need, I said. She swallowed hard. They're locking me out at 2, the house. They said we were in possession without authorization. She forced a laugh that hurt more than a cry. I told them I have authorization. It's called money. Money frozen because it wasn't yours, I said. She flinched like the word froze had teeth. I didn't know, she said again, echoing the sentence from the night before as if repeating it could make it true. I didn't know you'd signed it. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't check. I was excited, she said, and the sentence came small as a schoolchild. I thought we finally got one, Dad. I told Trey we did it, and he said we have to claim it fast before someone else does something. He said we had to act. I acted too fast. Is that a crime now? Being happy. Being dishonest, as I said. She shook her head like the room had said a different line than the script she practiced. You think you're the only one who sacrificed? She said, and there was the old heat. I raised kids. I made it out of nothing. You didn't make it out. I said you made it off. Off my back, off my pension, off my patience. You grabbed a ticket I bought and called it a miracle. Miracles don't come with other people's signatures on them. We stood there, two statues that people had to walk around. Down the hall, someone's radio murmured a commercial for a furniture sale that had saved the same percentage since 1987. Life doesn't change as much as it repeats. If I sign something, she blurted. If I tell them I took it without looking, can you tell them to go easy? If you tell the truth, I said, you'll feel something you haven't in months ground. She laughed short, bitter. You think this is about feelings? It's about a house, Dad. A house with rooms I could breathe in. It was the first time I walked in, and the air didn't smell like someone else's cooking. It smelled like someone else's money, I said. She looked past me to the table where the binder sat. Her eyes lingered on it the way a child looks at a closed box they know contains the thing they're not allowed to touch. I don't want to fight, she said, voice thinned out. I can't fight anymore. Trey's gone. She tried to say it like a shrug and failed. He took a bag and left. Said he can't be part of legal trouble. He was on my couch with me when we said we were partners, but he can't be near a phone call when it's not applause. I felt the pity arrive like a stray dog that keeps finding the door you won't lock. I didn't open it. I'm making sandwiches, I said. If your boys are hungry, send them up. They can eat at my table. You and I will talk with a third person in the room, Dana. Or we don't talk. She stared a second like the offer was in a language she only half remembered. They're with Leah, she said finally. She took them when the power company called. She didn't want them to see me panic. I nodded once slowly. It felt like we'd both walked past a place where a different kind of story would have turned. She shifted the grocery bag in her hand and held it out. This is nothing, she said, but it's all they let me get. I paid in cash, coins, keep it, I said. You'll need it. She drew in a breath through her nose, steadying herself on pride. I didn't come for your mercy, she said. Good, I said. I don't give it. I give instructions. That got through. Her eyes sharpened old habit, remembering I had been the one to explain forms and processes and expiration dates. What do I do, she said. And it wasn't defeat. It was finally a question whose answer might move something. Call Dana, I said. Tell her you're ready to give a statement. Call the commission and ask for your interview. Bring whatever cash is left and ask them how to hold it. Pull down the posts. Not because they make you look bad, but because they make you feel untouchable. You're not. And you, she said. I'll do what I said I'd do. I said, tell the truth. That's the whole job. Her chin trembled once. She caught it in her teeth. I hate you, she said, but the words didn't land. They hovered and looked for somewhere to roost, then gave up. She turned, made it 2 steps down the hall, then turned back. Do you remember the porch swing? She asked to the doorframe, not to me. The one you always said you'd buy if it ever worked out. I remember, I said. I wanted to surprise you, she said. Before it all, you wouldn't have liked it. White and fancier than you do, but I wanted to try. She bit down on her bottom lip and walked away before the rest of the sentence could decide what kind of sentence it wanted to be. I closed the door gently. The apartment tensed and then relaxed like a body after a shot. I made sandwiches anyway. I wrapped them in wax paper because kindness sits best in something that doesn't leak through. I texted Leah, I have food. Tell the boys they can visit if you bring them. She replied with a heart and a sentence. We're okay. They're watching cartoons. Thank you. At 2, the lock change happened across the street, no drama. A man with a tool belt and a tube of weather stripping. Ava stood on the sidewalk with a trash bag that sagged like a tired lung. The property manager handed her a form. She signed. Her hand shook only once. At 3, the news crawl changed. No longer routine verification. Now lottery commission schedules clarification regarding disputed 10, Nello or ticket press availability tomorrow. The word tomorrow lifted off the screen like a date you don't. Commission is moving, she said. They verified the store footage independently. They want your original penmanship sample signatures from the last 12 months. Bring a check register if you have one. I do, I said. I keep a book. Of course you do, she said. And there was warmth in the of course. Also, they're drafting a public clarification. No date yet. Could be fast. Keep your phone on, and Walter. You might get journalists sniffing around. You say nothing? I've been practicing nothing all my life, I said. She laughed once quickly. The noon hour pinched. Snow flicked against the windows like static. At 12:11, the building's buzzer went twice uncertain. I pressed the intercom. It's me, Ava said. No staging, no preamble. Just the word that used to be enough to open any door I owned. I pressed the release. The click sounded like a decision. She came up the stairs slowly as if each step might move under her. When she reached my landing, she looked past me into the apartment the way a person looks into a childhood room they've already sold, checking what they forgot to feel. In one hand, she held a plastic grocery bag with 2 cereal boxes and a loaf of bread crushed into an oval. On her face, the stiff shine of a woman who ran out of waterproof mascara before she ran out of weather.
Can I come in?
She asked. You can stand where you are and speak, I said. Then I stepped back 3ft to make the distance honest. I don't have time for your rules, she said. But her voice didn't carry the old snap. Something else was there. Not an apology, not yet. Accounting may be the kind you do at the end of a day when the drawer doesn't match the tape. Then say what you need, I said. She swallowed hard. They're locking me out at 2, the house. They said we were in possession without authorization. She forced a laugh that hurt more than a cry. I told them I have authorization. It's called money. Money frozen because it wasn't yours, I said. She flinched like the word froze had teeth. I didn't know, she said again, echoing the sentence from the night before as if repeating it could make it true. I didn't know you'd signed it. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't check. I was excited, she said, and the sentence came small as a schoolchild. I thought we finally got one, Dad. I told Trey we did it, and he said we have to claim it fast before someone else does something. He said we had to act. I acted too fast. Is that a crime now? Being happy. Being dishonest, as I said. She shook her head like the room had said a different line than the script she practiced. You think you're the only one who sacrificed? She said, and there was the old heat. I raised kids. I made it out of nothing. You didn't make it out. I said you made it off. Off my back, off my pension, off my patience. You grabbed a ticket I bought and called it a miracle. Miracles don't come with other people's signatures on them. We stood there, 2 statues that people had to walk around. Down the hall, someone's radio murmured a commercial for a furniture sale that had saved the same percentage since 1987. Life doesn't change as much as it repeats. If I sign something, she blurted. If I tell them I took it without looking, can you tell them to go easy? If you tell the truth, I said, you'll feel something you haven't in months ground. She laughed short, bitter. You think this is about feelings? It's about a house, Dad. A house with rooms I could breathe in. It was the first time I walked in, and the air didn't smell like someone else's cooking. It smelled like someone else's money, I said. She looked past me to the table where the binder sat. Her eyes lingered on it the way a child looks at a closed box they know contains the thing they're not allowed to touch. I don't want to fight, she said, voice thinned out. I can't fight anymore. Trey's gone. She tried to say it like a shrug and failed. He took a bag and left. Said he can't be part of legal trouble. He was on my couch with me when we said we were partners, but he can't be near a phone call when it's not applause. I felt the pity arrive like a stray dog that keeps finding the door you won't lock. I didn't open it. I'm making sandwiches, I said. If your boys are hungry, send them up. They can eat at my table. You and I will talk with a third person in the room, Dana. Or we don't talk. She stared a second like the offer was in a language she only half remembered. They're with Leah, she said finally. She took them when the power company called. She didn't want them to see me panic. I nodded once slowly. It felt like we'd both walked past a place where a different kind of story would have turned. She shifted the grocery bag in her hand and held it out. This is nothing, she said, but it's all they let me get. I paid in cash, coins, keep it, I said. You'll need it. She drew in a breath through her nose, steadying herself on pride. I didn't come for your mercy, she said. Good, I said. I don't give it. I give instructions. That got through. Her eyes sharpened old habit, remembering I'd been the one to explain forms and processes and expiration dates. What do I do, she said. And it wasn't defeat. It was finally a question whose answer might move something. Call Dana, I said. Tell her you're ready to give a statement. Call the commission and ask for your interview. Bring whatever cash is left and ask them how to hold it. Pull down the posts. Not because they make you look bad, but because they make you feel untouchable. You're not. And you, she said. I'll do what I said I'd do. I said, tell the truth. That's the whole job. Her chin trembled once. She caught it in her teeth. I hate you, she said, but the words didn't land. They hovered and looked for somewhere to roost, then gave up. She turned, made it 2 steps down the hall, then turned back. Do you remember the porch swing? She asked to the doorframe, not to me. The one you always said you'd buy if it ever worked out. I remember, I said. I wanted to surprise you, she said. Before it all, you wouldn't have liked it. White and fancier than you do, but I wanted to try. She bit down on her bottom lip and walked away before the rest of the sentence could decide what kind of sentence it wanted to be. I closed the door gently. The apartment tensed and then relaxed like a body after a shot. I made sandwiches anyway. I wrapped them in wax paper because kindness sits best in something that doesn't leak through. I texted Leah, I have food. Tell the boys they can visit if you bring them. She replied with a heart and a sentence. We're okay. They're watching cartoons. Thank you. At 2, the lock change happened across the street, no drama. A man with a tool belt and a tube of weather stripping. Ava stood on the sidewalk with a trash bag that sagged like a tired lung. The property manager handed her a form. She signed. Her hand shook only once. At 3, the news crawl changed. No longer routine verification. Now lottery commission schedules clarification regarding disputed 10, Nellower ticket press availability tomorrow. The word tomorrow lifted off the screen like a date you don't